6 minutes. I'm here with North Forsyth coach, Travis Jarrard. Hey, Travis, how are things?
Doing well, doing well.
Awesome. You just got off the softball field.
I did. I had softball practice today. We had picture day, which is every coach's favorite day of practice. And then we did a little short scrimmage, and then I raced home, picked up my daughter, and took her to soccer practice. And now I'm sitting in the parking lot at soccer practice.
So did you have a kid that played softball? Is that why you got
Nope.
into softball, or?
Nope. I played baseball growing up, and
Okay.
my dad was a high school softball coach up in Virginia for 19 years, 20 years, something like that.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
yeah.
All right. So that's how you do
Yeah.
softball. But none of your
Yeah.
girls play softball.
No.
Not
Really, my two youngest are really the only ones that play sports. And softball is not a fast enough paced sport for them to play.
Got it.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Georgia wrestling.
Okay.
Hopefully we have a season. Do you have a sense on kind of what's going on? I mean, you're on the ground there in Georgia. Do you think we have a chance?
Oh, I think we definitely have a chance.
Okay, good.
People ask me all the time, when they see me, hey, are we going to have a season? Are we going to have a season? And really everything hinges on football. We have to have football go off without too much of a hitch. We've had some systems already postpone all fall sports, nothing until January. But for the most part, the big systems, the big metro systems, they're planning on moving forward with football. And if we can get at least a partial season, even if everybody's not playing 10 games, but if we can get through a region schedule in football, if we can get into playoffs, if we can get through that, then I think we're going to be good to go.
Cool. Awesome. Well, since you think that we've got a shot, and I think we do as well. Let's talk a little bit about your team.
All right.
You had a bunch of young kids last year.
Yes.
It was a very young team. It'll still be a young team. I think you only have one returning starter that wrestled at sectionals.
No, we've it's funny because if you were to look at my team coming back this year and just look at them in a vacuum, yes, you would say they are a young team. But that's only because we were so young last year. Last year we were six freshmen, 5 sophomores, 1 junior, and 3 seniors.
Okay.
Or 2 seniors. Yeah.
Right.
So this year only 1 senior, but we got 10 freshmen and sophomores coming back that'll be sophomores and juniors.
Yeah, and your 2 hammers, Bentley Wheeler and Dylan Lyerly, both placed.
Yep.
I mean, and Lyerly was a champ, and they're both juniors. They're not even seniors yet.
Right.
And you look at the pieces around them, I think you guys have a pretty good squad to make a run at 7A. What's your feeling?
We always go into a season saying kind of the same things, but this year I think it's truer than most. Everything starts in the backyard because West and Lambert are loaded. Both of them are. I mean, both West Forsyth and Lambert are absolutely loaded. We can sit here and talk about 7A championships and look at Camden, Collins Hill, and everything they do. But if we look past our county, if we look past the backyard, then we're going to get knocked off and we're not going to have a shot. So everything starts there. And I love dual matches. Everything for me boils down to dual matches. And so when you look at Lambert and West lineup up and down, that they are 2 completely different lineups. If you were to combine those 2 teams together, they would be pretty fierce.
They would.
Unstoppable, essentially. But luckily, we only have to wrestle them one at a time, and so we got to figure those 2 out first. And a lot of times it'll come down to matchups. I'm pretty happy with what we've got coming back. We got to see where all the weights go.
Of course, right.
That's one of the big problems that I've seen when you've got that really young team and you think, oh, everybody just moves up a weight class, but that's not how it works. Especially when freshmen moving into sophomores and even sophomores moving into juniors. Some guys are making 2 weight class jumps, some 3, and some none at all. And so now we're all bunched up. And where does all that shake out at the end of the day? That's kind of going to determine where we're at the end of the season.
I know you talked a little bit about the you don't know where the weights are going to kind of shake out and that sort of thing. But on paper, it looks like you guys are pretty strong up top. I mean,
Yes.
you know, that's where your strength lies, and how that all shakes out and everything else. But you know, it's one of those situations where, you know, who are the types of kids like the sophomores that you really need to kind of step into some roles and really assume some of those 26, 32, 38 weight classes that are going to kind of excel?
Well, the sophomores, you know, we got to look at the ones that we had in the lineup last year that are coming back. You know, Michael Greider, he actually qualified for state but broke his hand at sectionals. He was having a great end of the season at 106. He's not going to be back down at 106 more than likely, but you know, 13, 20 range, and that's really where we're going to be needing some help, is that 120, 126 range.
Right.
Because my 6 and 13 pounders are kind of still staying down there around 6 and 13, but my 20 and 26 pounders have grown a lot.
Right.
So you know, Greider, Christopher Henderson, Brandon Peoples, those were two kids that were in the lineup as freshmen. And, you know, when you start freshmen at 6, 13, 20, you know, you can expect some successes, but when 32 and 38, you've got freshmen starting, and that's where Brandon Peoples and Christopher Henderson were. Those are two tough weight classes every year, and to have freshmen in there, they both had great seasons. Neither one of them qualified straight out for sectionals. Brandon ended up getting in as an alternate, but you know, those two, I'm expecting big things out of them. How much do they grow? We just have to see. You know, both of them are growing. So really, you know, that 120, 126, 132 range, I've got to get some guys in there that are going to be able to, you know, hold down the fort at least, you know, not give up big points. You know, they don't have to be hammers or anything. It would be nice, but they don't have to be. They just have to.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you talked about the duels, and that's really the key. I mean, you want kids who are going to go in and be competitive. They may not get the win, but they're not going to give up 6, you know, and they're going to be battling for you week in, week out in every single match that they have, because you're going to get your points from Lyerly and Wheeler and the other individuals.
Yeah.
So how do you focus? How do you have that conversation with those kids that you're like, you know, we need this? You know, duels come down to a point. Duels come down to 2 points. So
yeah, it's something that we start from day one. You know, a quote from one of my assistant coaches, Jeff Mayer, way back when we first moved up into 5A, which at the time was the biggest classification. When we jumped into that region with Collins Hill, Peachtree Ridge, North Gwinnett, and it's just a simple quote: know your role. And you know, we go through it with everybody. Look, this is who you're going to have. This is what we need out of you in this dual match. This is what we need out of you. We don't need you to go out there and pin the guy. We need to make sure that you don't get majored. We need to make sure that you don't get, now, if you do better than that, great.
Right.
But this is what we need. If we can get everybody to do what they need, then this is what we're going to win by. So it's that know your role. And we talk about it all the time, you know. Sometimes when I'm doing scheduling, I'll have coaches email me about getting into this JV scramble or this thing for JV or just a round robin, maximum up JV. And I never get in those because I feel like we struggle getting these kids coming from the youth program and USA Wrestling, where everything's a tournament, that they don't understand the team concept behind it.
Right.
And so when I bring those kids for JV and they go to a tournament, there's a reason why they're wrestling. You're going out there to wrestle for your team, not just you. If it's an individual tournament, we're keeping a team score. If it's a dual tournament, we're keeping a team score. I don't want this round robin match. I can match them up in my room. You know, we can wrestle.
Right.
So there's got to be a team component behind it. And Coach Contardi over at Lambert, you know, he asked, why don't you ever come to my JV tournament in November? I told him this is why. And so he switched it up, and now it's an individualized bracketed tournament, because these kids, they need to understand that component, because if they don't, then all of a sudden they're in a match and it's the third period and they're losing by 2 and they go for a takedown and they don't get it. They give up the takedown and now they're down by 4 with 20 seconds left and they just roll over. Well, it doesn't matter. I already lost. Who cares?
Right.
Well, those 14 points care or 3 team points care.
Well, and that can't be the difference, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So, you know, I look at you guys and, you know, I've been around Georgia wrestling at least for a little while now. And, you have a very consistent program. 4 years ago, you had 11 qualifiers for state. 3 years ago, you had 8. 2 years ago, you had 8. Last year, you had 7, several qualifiers, so on and so forth. What is it that you communicate to the kids that is how to kind of keep that consistency over time?
Well, it helps a little bit that, we've gone through 2 cycles. That 4-year period is 2 cycles of pretty young lineups, where we had a big group of sophomores that were starting, and then they went through their junior and senior year, and all of them qualified for state for 3 years. And then we started that whole cycle over again last year, where we've got a big group of freshmen and sophomore, and we've got that cycle. What the consistency, really, it comes from my staff. I've got a phenomenal coaching staff, and I've had them there with me for a while now. Josh Montesinos has been with me for almost a decade, if not more. Bud Signs, he came in, he was a head coach up in Pennsylvania. He came down, he's been with me for 6-7 years. Mayer's been with me for over a decade. I had Rusty Transu with me for a long time before he, took a head coaching job somewhere. I just added another new guy last year. So the consistency of the staff helps. The kids come into the program, they know what to expect. They know what it's going to be like. They know what they're going to do. And it helps that all of those assistant coaches that I just named could be head coaches, no problem. And so,
yes. Well, and I think that, you look at some of the top programs, Collins Hill and Camden and Alexander and, Valdosta and lots of different programs around the state. I think they kind of, they're similar to what you just said. They have a lot of really quality assistant coaches. So I guess the question is, if you're a brand new coach and you're starting out with a program, is it kind of pulling in those assistant coaches that kind of help you build that program? Is that like one of the most important first steps?
Yes, 100%. Because I started out, I had one assistant coach when I first started back in 2000. So 20 years ago, one assistant coach, Coach Stephen Ginn and I. And we had some success early on. We got second in the state my first year. And he was with me for 3 years. And we had 3 pretty successful years. Now, a lot of that was you had 2 very, very young, fresh out of college, practically coaches that we didn't know what we didn't know. So we just banged our heads against until it worked. Okay. So, but then he left, he went down to South Georgia, down to St. Simon's Island. He retired to the beach after 3 years. And
that's
I went
not a
through
bad gig.
If you like the beach. But then I went through a little stretch there where I didn't have that consistency. I brought in, for 1 year, I virtually had nothing. And then I brought in a series of lay coaches, and some of them were good quality coaches. Coach Stiles was a good quality coach, but he was a lay coach. He wasn't in the room. And it wasn't until I got Mayor in, and then that moved into to a few other people that were in the room, in the school building. Not that lay coaches aren't great, because they are. But once we finally started got more guys that are in the building every day to see these kids instead of just at practice, then things that consistency started. The level was risen by some of those lay coaches like Coach Mayer, but then the consistency started building, and now it's just it's a great environment to be in. But yeah, I would say for a new coach, number one priority, find you a coach, an assistant coach that's going to be there, that's going to do what you need to do, and that you can learn from. If you're going to be a head coach and you're hiring an assistant coach, the number one thing you should be looking at, what can I learn from this guy? And we brought in several that, I'm learning from all of them. I learned from my assistant coaches. And if, as a head coach, if you stop learning from your assistant coaches, your program's going to get stagnant and go downhill.
So last question I have, because we are pretty much out of time, is you are also way plugged in to Georgia as a whole, right?
Right.
And
yes.
So what is the one thing, if we have a season, and I'm very hopeful that we do, what is the one thing that you're looking forward to seeing this coming year? Or what is a couple of things that you're looking forward to seeing?
From just straight out the Georgia high school season, I want to see how the new dual system is going to work. To be honest, most people who know me know that I'm not really that big of a fan of it. But let's see how it works. My favorite part of the season is state dual tournament. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it, so it didn't really need fixing. And sometimes when you fix something that's broke, you break it. So I'm not a big fan of that, but I'm willing to give it a try. Let's see what it's like. I think in the long run, it's going to cause more problems than it solved. I think you're going to see a lot of teams left home from Macon that are better than some of the teams that are there, which I know you get that in any sport. I don't know, that 16-man bracket down there was great. So that's number one. I always look forward to that.
Okay.
If we don't have a season, I look forward to having a club season where we have a massive open entry individual state tournament somewhere and with nobody to say too many classes, not enough classes. It's like, hey, if you want to wrestle a state tournament, here it is, come and get it.
There you go.
I'd be looking forward to that, just to see it one time. I want a season, but if we're not going to have it, that might be a pretty decent consolation prize for a lot of people.
I'll tell you what, boy, that would be one hell of a bracket.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, open entry. Everybody come. We'll make it a 128-man bracket, start on Tuesday and finish Saturday night.
I think you know a guy who can pull all that off and get a venue for us. So
I might.
Well, it's great to talk to you, Travis. I hope to talk to you, and I'm going to talk to you in a few weeks, because let's talk a little bit about that Super 32 qualifier.
Definitely.
And,
Definitely.
I'll reach back out to you in a few weeks, and we'll touch on that. Okay.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Take care, man. Bye.
All right, buddy.